Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3 months, $90 for 6 months, or $180 for 12-month plan required. $15 per month equivalent. Taxes and fees extra. Initial plan term only. Greater than 50 gigabytes may slow when network is busy. See terms.
And away we go, episode 1386 of the Al Galdi podcast. It is Wednesday, August 12th, 2026. This is the day of the Washington Commanders' first of 2 joint practices in the lead-up to the NFL's 2026 regular season. We have a joint practice for Washington with the Miami Dolphins at Washington's team facility in Ashburn, Virginia on Wednesday morning at 10:30. We then have a preseason game for Washington against Miami at Northwest Stadium this Friday night at 7 in each team's 2026 preseason opener. A lot of history between the Washington Commanders franchise and the Miami Dolphins franchise. 2 Super Bowls, right? In fact, 2 Super Bowls in California. Super Bowl 7, January 14th, 1973, a 14-7 Redskins loss to the Dolphins at the Los Angeles Memorial Coliseum, completing the Dolphins' perfect 1972 season, 14-0 in the regular season, 3-0 in the postseason. But then, a decade later, Super Bowl 17, January 30th, 1983, a 27-17 Redskins win over the Dolphins at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. What is happening between Washington and Miami this week? Not exactly on par with those 2 Super Bowls, but it is nice to have the events of this week to break up the monotony of training camp. Hello and welcome to this Wednesday installment of the Al Galdi podcast. Coming up on the show, lots for you from 2026 Washington Commanders training camp. Next segment, discussion of Washington's offense off comments from head coach Dan Quinn, including why I like how Washington is handling left tackle Laremy Tunsil having suffered a torn triceps. Quinn being adamant that Brandon Coleman now is Washington's starting left tackle. Quinn admitting to being concerned about the offensive line, and Quinn explaining what the team having Stefon Diggs is meaning for other Washington receivers. The following segment, conversation about Washington's defense off comments from Quinn and defensive coordinator Daronte Jones, including an update on cornerback Trey Amos. Jones confirming that Washington is going with a 3-4 base defense and the extent to which Jones excels as a teacher. Is this the secret to Washington finally having a good defense off 3 consecutive seasons of bad defenses? Washington's last good defense was the 2022 defense. And also on the show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats, their 3-game winning streak is over, an 8-6 loss to the Chicago Cubs at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening. The O's, they won for just the second time in 6 games, a 5-2 win at the Minnesota Twins on Tuesday night. You can hit me up on X at Al Galdi. You can email me the Al Galdi podcast at yahoo.com. You could reach me via writing a review of the podcast on Apple Podcasts. You can write about whatever you want, and I'll read what you write if you give the podcast a 5-star rating. Email from Rick Proctor, who is bullish on the Washington Commanders off them last Friday morning announcing having signed Stefon Diggs as an unrestricted free agent. Writes Rick, and in poem-like fashion. Morning, Al. I trust all is well. Florida fans, when I heard Stefon, I said, are you kidding? Come on. Who needs bigs when we got Stefon Diggs? Our title chances are big. He elevates the Skins. Ain't no doubt about it. He gives the team 2 more wins because we got Stefon Diggs. Forget the Eagles, boys, and Giants. They are in our sights because we do have the bigs. And in addition, we got Stefon Diggs. See ya at the Super Bowl. I love the smell of napalm on a Stefon Diggs morning. How sweet it is. Thank you for that, Rick. Glad to see that our guy Rick is pumped for the season. And yes, as Vinny Serrato said during his wonderful time as a Washington Redskins executive, for the fans.
For the fans.
That's right, Vinny. For the fans. Not for the fans. No, Florida fans, 2026 Washington Commanders training camp is ongoing. Football season is here. If you would like to grow your business or practice, consider advertising on this podcast. We're offering great deals in honor of the football season. Podcast advertising is very affordable and works. Put the power of the pod to work for you. Get your message out there to thousands of successful people in the Washington, D.C. area. Grow your business or practice. We'd love to have you on board. Email us to see what we can do for you. The email address is the Al Galdi Podcast at yahoo.com. We at 2026 Washington Commanders training camp on Tuesday morning had a shorter non-padded practice for which a number of players did not practice, some due to injury, but also some due to rest. This off a lengthy padded practice on Monday morning and prior to the joint practice with the visiting Miami Dolphins on Wednesday morning at 10:30. And we have Washington versus Miami at Northwest Stadium this Friday night at 7 in each team's 2026 preseason opener. Head coach Dan Quinn did a pre-practice press conference on Tuesday morning. During that presser, had this exchange between Commanders insider Liam Griffin of the Washington Times and Quinn.
We've seen the rise of these joint practices really start to proliferate across the league. How does it change your approach to a preseason game when you do have that joint practice versus when you don't?
Yeah, it's an advantage to have it, for sure. It allows you to maybe do some things that you may not want to show into the ball games to go. It sets up things like one-on-ones. So tomorrow you'll see us, wide receivers, DBs, tight ends, running backs, matchups. How does that go? So just in terms of training your skills alone, there's an advantage. So I like it. And I think, the two for us seems the appropriate amount.
Dan Quinn on Tuesday morning also said that he, during his pre-practice press conference on Wednesday morning, will address whether starters/key players will play against the Dolphins this Friday night. The number one topic during Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Tuesday morning, as was the case during Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Monday morning, was left tackle Laremy Tunsil being out for at least a significant portion of the 2026 regular season due to a torn triceps that he suffered during practice this past Saturday morning. Quinn on Monday morning confirmed the injury, confirmed that Tunsil would be undergoing surgery, and confirmed that the team is going with Brandon Coleman as its starting left tackle with Tunsil out. Quinn on Tuesday morning revealed that he had addressed the Tunsil injury with the team. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Quinn.
When you have an injury like with Laremy, how much do you address the team about that? How do you go about talking to them about it? Because it's a dominant conversation.
Yes, for sure I addressed it, and I wanted to, especially while it was still fresh. I had said, hey, he's going to be out for a while. The guy's an absolute warrior, and knowing that you wanted to acknowledge it and just say that, because obviously, especially the offensive line, this is a tight group. They were definitely feeling it. So, yeah, I'm definitely someone that would rather discuss it and kind of have a conversation first.
So there are two things about Washington's handling of the Laremy Tunsil injury that I especially like. A, the team is not downplaying the injury. The team is being honest and upfront in admitting that this injury is a big deal. I appreciate that. B, the team was quick and decisive in coming up with a plan for left tackle with Tunsil out. The team right away decided on Brandon Coleman as the starting left tackle. And by the way, Dan Quinn on Tuesday morning was clear that Coleman is the starting left tackle. Take a listen to this exchange.
Adam Epstein, 910 The Fan. How long is a true evaluation period for Brandon Coleman at left tackle in your mind?
Brandon's the starter at left tackle, and so he's got a lot of experience into that space, and he's put the work in. We have lots of confidence in him.
Zero hesitation from Dan Quinn. Quote, Brandon's the starter at left tackle, end quote. Now, I don't know that is 100% the case. In other words, if Coleman struggles at left tackle over these next few weeks, then he may well no longer be the starter at left tackle. But, I don't expect him to struggle at left tackle over these next few weeks. And more to the point, I respect that Dan Quinn is showing confidence in Brandon Coleman. The team has not been wishy-washy in its reaction to the Laremy Tunsil injury. Okay, Tunsil's out. Brandon Coleman, next man up. Let's go. Now, There right now, absolutely, is concern with this offensive line, as we have not just the situation at left tackle, but also the situation at center, as the man who is the favorite to be the starting center, Nick Allegretti, remains out due to a calf strain. And there's also this. Washington, this past Saturday morning, announced having signed 3 unrestricted free agent offensive linemen. Center Daniel Brunskill, offensive tackle Nicholas Petit-Frere, and guard Max Sharping. This news got overlooked because of what happened with Laremy Tunsil, but this news should not go unnoticed. These 3 guys, Daniel Brunskill, Nicholas Petit-Frere, and Max Sharping, not exactly household names, understood, but these guys are not like undrafted rookies. These 3 guys are veteran NFL offensive linemen. You don't, in the middle of training camp, sign 3 veteran NFL offensive linemen if you are thrilled with your offensive line. You know, it's important in sports and in life to follow actions more so than words. Actions speak louder than words, right? The action of Washington in the middle of training camp, signing 3 veteran NFL offensive linemen, so says that the team has concern with the offensive line to at least some extent. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between John Keim and Dan Quinn.
You have Nick out now. You have to switch over there. Like, do you have any concerns about this line coming together in time? And do you have enough depth there? Do you feel to offset?
I do, because I think we entered into it that way, John, to like absorb like a unfortunate situation such as this. And I hit Brandon yesterday and I said it's a great feeling knowing that you put so much work into it. You're not called on to do, man, now I've got to do extra. I can do more. And so that's a good feeling that when you put the work in and your moment's called, that you're ready. And if you hadn't put the work in, then it's like, it's harder, man. I got to do more. I got to go above. I got to try things I haven't. So he really, threw himself like an outstanding spring and summer. So it's not easy. The communication with him and Chris, they'll work through that. Nick will be back. He'll be out practice tomorrow in the game, but hopefully Sunday is, the return to start with him. So that's, kind of where we're at. But it's not ideal, but it's not unusual either. Like this is part of resilience and going through it. And so I would say to your depth question, yeah, because of Brandon, because Andrew, we had people in that space that who was going to be 8-9. It's close.
All right, and we learned that answer from Dan Quinn. Got an update on Nick Allegretti. The hope is that he'll be back on Sunday. Good news there. We also heard Quinn in that answer reference the communication between Brandon Coleman at left tackle and Chris Paul at left guard. So Coleman, during this training camp, had been competing with Paul for the starting left guard job. That competition now is over. Paul won via default. Now, we over at Washington's final 3 games of last regular season did have Coleman as the starting left tackle and Paul as the starting left guard. Coleman was Washington's starting left tackle for those games due to Laremy Tunsil being out due to an oblique injury. Paul last regular season supplanted Brandon Coleman as Washington's number 1 left guard and started each of the team's final 15 games, playing on 100% of the team's offensive snaps over those 15 games. We on Tuesday morning had this back and forth between columnist David Aldridge of The Athletic and Dan Quinn.
To stick with Chris and Brandon for a second, do you look at all at the time they spent at the end of last season, or is that completely irrelevant because it's a totally new offense?
Yeah. I don't think it's irrelevant because there's still, like David, you and I were playing together, the communication, the calls that would go into it together. So I think there's probably over 200 snaps. He played some in Kansas City, in the games in that one. So not irrelevant, but the couple weeks now, I'm glad, into games, into preseason games, into that, the joint practices. So we'll need all the time for sure.
You have 2 younger linemen now, and you don't have the veteran to kind of get them corrected in real time. So how do they do that in real time now?
Yeah, that's a good one. Without that kind of experience to say, hey, go to this, go to that. And LT had such a good way about him, even in game, Dave, to say, okay, got it, here's the thing. The good news is they do have experience, and starting and playing and going through it. So they'll have to lean on one another into that space. I would say it's probably similar amounts of games and starts and all that kind of stuff. But at the end of it, it's they're building their time together.
Look, man, there is nothing good about Laremy Tunsil having suffered a torn triceps, but if he had to suffer this injury before the start of the regular season, better that he suffered the injury now instead of, say, 3 weeks from now, as at least now there is a good bit of time for Brandon Coleman to get acclimated to being the starting left tackle and for the rest of the team to adjust to Coleman being the starting left tackle. We are still more than a month away from Washington's 2026 regular season opener, which is at the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday afternoon, September 13th at 4:25. Something else to be aware of with Laremy Tunsil, his plan is to be around the team even while injured. This from John Keim on Tuesday night in a post on X. Quote, "One thing to note on Laremy Tunsil, Andrew Wiley said he told the OL that he would return to Ashburn for his treatment post-surgery so he can be around the team. Can still help the younger O-lineman he's been tutoring," end quote. How great is that? A salute to Laremy Tunsil. That is being a true leader. Even while you are recovering from a serious injury in a torn triceps, you make it a point to be around the team so that you can continue to help younger offensive linemen. Also regarding Washington's offense during Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Tuesday morning was a good bit of conversation about receiver Stefon Diggs. So Washington this past Friday morning announced having signed Diggs as an unrestricted free agent, ending the search for a WR2 and making it so that Washington receivers not named Terry McLaurin can settle into more appropriate roles. Although, you never know what can happen. I mean, like Antonio Williams could have a monster rookie season. Maybe he ends up being Washington's WR2, if not WR1. I mean, who knows? But right now, at this point in time, Terry McLaurin, WR1, Stefon Diggs, WR2, and then fierce competition for the rest of the receiver spots, however many, for Washington's initial 53-man roster for the 2026 season. We on Tuesday morning had this back and forth between Commanders insider Ben Standig of Last Man Standing on Substack and Dan Quinn.
Hey, Dan. With Stefon here now, I know you guys had confidence in the rest of the receivers. Does it change anybody's role for how you want to see them potentially, how you might use them in the regular season?
I think that's a fair question, Ben. It could. I think it's going to depend on what takes place over the next few weeks to see how roles begin to emerge. But yeah, for a player of his caliber, things will shift and move around. That's like part of that. But also, there's a good byproduct of things that he's adding. What can they do? Like adding another veteran receiver to your room. Like they lean on Terry a lot now, having the ability to go through things with Steph. Like that's pretty valuable for Antonio and Luke and Jay in a lot of ways too. So there's definitely a trade-off. But as the roles emerge, I think that'll take the next few weeks to sort itself out.
And just with Traylon Burks and Van Jefferson, kind of what have you seen with them at this point in the camp? And sort of the same thing, like how do things shift for them possibly with the sort of the moves?
The shift part, we're not there yet, but I would say what I have seen from them, I've been pleased. Van is exacting, sits down in the zone, the catch location. So, man, is that a good feeling for a QB? Okay, the zone, sit down, right spot, right location, get the right yards. Trey, you feel these big catches, whether it's on the sideline, over the middle, the catch radius. I think for him, lighter has been able to go longer and faster. And I think that's been an advantage for him. Than he's in the past been up to over 230, and that size he's just under 220. And I feel that difference in the speed as well. He's still back catching punts and part of that, but he's really competing hard.
Dan Quinn calling receiver Van Jefferson, quote, exacting, end quote. Quite the description. As much as there is the thought that Jefferson now is the odd man out regarding receivers making Washington's initial 53-man roster for the 2026 season, Quinn sure has had a lot of nice things to say about Jefferson. Washington's current group of receivers, Terry McLaurin, Stefon Diggs, Antonio Williams, Traylon Burks, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, De'Ami Brown, Van Jefferson, Jaden Bradley, Jacoby Jones, Nick Nash, and River Craycraft. As for the impact of Stefon Diggs, we on Tuesday morning had this exchange between Adam Epstein and Dan Quinn.
Have you noticed more explosiveness in the offense since Stefon Diggs got here?
Well, I would say, yeah, in some ways I have. There's already been some explosive play passes. The interesting thing about Steph, like a smart player, is he good against zone, he knows how to sit down, like he's good against both, in terms of zone and man-to-man. He knows, how to get himself open. His football smarts and instincts I thought they were going to be like really high, and they're already past that. So we're in early days. He's still learning it, but he's already making an impact for sure.
Yeah, Washington looking to be better regarding explosive plays. So if we look at all plays that were for at least 15 yards, Washington for the 2025 regular season, per Warren Sharp of Sharp Football Analysis, was tied with the New York Giants for number 16 in the NFL in explosive play rate, 10.1%, so middle of the pack. And Stefon Diggs, according to Dan Quinn, is very much behaving as a leader. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between Liam Griffin and Dan Quinn.
We've already seen Stefon Diggs, share handshakes with his new teammates. We've seen him coach some of the younger guys up between plays. How have you seen him really start to ingratiate himself into this locker room and that wide receiver room?
Sure, a number of ways. He's a good communicator, and he brings good energy to the group. He's approachable. He's like somebody that you want to spend time with and gravitate towards him. Like I saw him, just as small as it sounds, like just having breakfast together with some of the guys, going through things. He's spending extra time with, Bobby in the meeting room. And so some of the other guys are just sitting in that same meeting just to help. And so I thought that's also a cool thing to see, that Diami and Jay and others, while Bobby was going through the new calls, they're also echoing, that is like this can be like that. And so it's nice to see both sides of that, where they're helping him get up to speed, and then there's some concepts that he knows inside out. So he might have called it something differently through the years, but he has insights to share with them. So I like the balance that I'm seeing so far.
All right. Well, Washington very much needs Brandon Coleman to step up. And if you need to step up your wardrobe, like Brandon Coleman needs to step up, check out Quince. So go to quince.com/Galdi. Quince is all about fewer, better pieces. Quince's clothes are made with premium materials built to last and designed to become the ones that you reach for day after day. I've been telling you about my sand dune colored cotton chino drawstring shorts from Quince. Clothes from Quince become your go-to items, like a go-to receiver. Quince specializes in everyday staples that work harder, like Quince's ultra-soft organic cotton tees and premium Mongolian cashmere sweaters. They're versatile, timeless, and transition seamlessly from a casual workday to dinner out. If you're still hanging on to the same worn-out basics, Quince makes it easy to upgrade. Quince has premium denim and tailored chinos from just $60 with the kind of perfect fit, structure, and high-quality fabrics you'd expect from a luxury designer brand. Upgrade your everyday. Download the Quince app for app-exclusive offers, or go to quince.com/Galdi. Get free shipping on your order and 365-day returns, now available in Canada and the UK too. That's QUINCE.com/Galdi. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/Galdi.
If you're like me, you're the kid who savored every last drop of sugary milk at the bottom of your cereal bowl while watching Saturday morning cartoons. Kachava's new flavor, Cinnamon French Toast, gives you a bit of that classic nostalgia. And I love that it's made with real cinnamon bark. It's a comfort flavor, but with benefits and without the sugary drawbacks. There's no artificial colors, flavors, or sweeteners. It's non-GMO, there's no soy, there's no animal products, no gluten, and no preservatives. But Kachava does provide all the nutrition your body craves in one deliciously simple shake with just 2 scoops. So treat yourself to a childhood favorite. Go to Kachava.com and use code SPORTS for 15% off your first order. That's Kachava, Kachava.com with code SPORTS.
More now from 2026 Washington Commanders training camp off Tuesday morning's practice. It did not include cornerback Trey Amos. He's dealing with an ankle injury that he suffered during practice this past Saturday morning. We, during head coach Dan Quinn's pre-practice press conference on Tuesday morning, had this exchange between Commanders insider Tashawn Reed of the Washington Post and Quinn.
I know you say you're still evaluating Trey Amos and how long he'll be out. Do you have any update on his status?
He will be out kind of like for we're still assessing where he is. He kind of fell awkwardly on his ankle. He'll be out for tomorrow. He'll be out for the game on Friday, and I'll give you a better timeline on the next time we huddle up. That's Sunday or Monday, and is he closer? I'll have a better sense then.
So Trey Amos I thought would be the case, and as I'm sure many of you thought would be the case, out for the joint practice with the visiting Miami Dolphins on Wednesday morning at 10:30, and out for Washington's preseason game against the Dolphins at Northwest Stadium this Friday night at 7 in each team's 2026 preseason opener. And this is off Amos having been on the active/physically unable to perform list from July 25th until this past Friday morning, August 7th, as he was dealing with soft tissue soreness off the fractured fibula that he suffered in Washington's 44-22 loss to the Detroit Lions at Northwest Stadium this past November 9th. We don't know to what extent all of these ailments are related, but we do know that Amos in recent months has had to deal with quite a few ailments. So Washington early Tuesday morning announced multiple roster moves, including the signing of unrestricted free agent defensive tackle Byron Cowart, a product of the University of Maryland. He was taken by the New England Patriots in the 5th round of the 2019 NFL Draft out of Maryland, for which he played for just one season, the 2018 season. He played for Auburn for the 2015 through 2017 season. So Washington now has the following defensive tackles: Daron Payne, Javon Kinlaw, Tim Settle, Johnny Newton, Shai Tuttle, Ricky Barber, Jeffrey Emba, and Byron Cowart. And Washington on Tuesday afternoon announced the signing of unrestricted free agent linebacker Curtis Jacobs, who's a local. He went to McDonough School in Owings Mills, Maryland, played for the D.C. Defenders of the United Football League in its 2026 season. Defensive coordinator Daronte Jones, he did a post-practice press conference on Tuesday morning. The presser began with this back and forth between Commanders insider John Keim of ESPN and Jones, and then you'll hear a follow-up back and forth between Tashawn Reed and Jones.
Curious where you feel like the defense is at compared to maybe where you thought it would be. What things have jumped out to you so far?
Just how the guys have taken on the ownership, and the communication is kind of improving, and we're much further than where we were in the spring, which is good. So guys have taken accountability, and just to see the progress has been encouraging.
Just from what you see on the field, what is it? Is there something that, whether it's the athleticism, speed, what kind of sticks out with what you're seeing?
Just the improvement of the fundamentals and techniques that the guys that we have coaches has been stressing, and how those guys are going about their business on a day-to-day basis. Yes.
Daronte, coming in here, as a first year here at DC with this group, what sort of standard did you set for the group collectively going into training camp? What do you want this defense to be?
I can't hear you say that again.
I said, what sort of standard have you set with this defense going into your first training camp, working with this group just ahead of the season? What do you want this defense to be?
Definitely, again, stressing the fundamentals and techniques, tackling, defeating blocks. Elite communication is one of our standards. Everyone being on the same page, trusting in their brother next to them, and so looking at that is what that's our standard, and that's what we're working towards.
And I know you guys mix up your alignments a lot, but when you're in that 3-4 look that you guys use, what do you think that adds to the table? That's something that's new for a lot of the guys that we've been here in years past. They've mostly been working out a 4-3. What does that change do for a defense in your opinion?
It just gives a different front structure. So, your 4-3, you have 4 down, and your 3-4, you have your 5 down possibility. You can even show some reduced front structures with that. And so just kind of trying to change the math up front. There's 5 offensive linemen, so you don't want to give anybody a kind of a play off possibly, but that's just the thought process of it. Just occupying more gaps up front.
So Daronte Jones confirming that Washington is going with a 3-4 base defense. As we on the podcast have said plenty of times, the true base defense for every team in the modern NFL is nickel. But to the extent that 4-3 versus 3-4 matters, so Washington is going with a 3-4 base defense. First time that our team is going with a 3-4 base defense since going with a 3-4 base defense for the 2010 through 2019 seasons, which were mostly woeful defensive seasons for Washington. But those defenses were mostly woeful due to bad players, bad coaching, bad player personnel, and bad ownership. A lot of bad for our team during those years. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with a 3-4 base defense. Plenty of great defenses over the last 20 years have been defenses that went with a base look of 3-4. Now, we heard Daronte Jones mention communication, and that is a key word during this Washington training camp, communication. Dan Quinn has brought up that word a bunch. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange between Commanders insider Candy Waller of Bowie TV Sports and Daronte Jones, and then you'll hear a follow-up back and forth between Commanders insider Martenzie Johnson of Notice and Jones.
You mentioned elite communication.
Yes.
Have there been some examples or some players that have stood out that are really exemplifying that elite communication?
Yeah, there's always times where you see guys going in from, we have some checks within the offense, within the defense, and you can see guys communicating, getting us into one call, out of one call, based off of what they're seeing and having that flexibility. But to do that, you got to make sure everyone's on the same page. And so we call it the communication hub has to be in line with each other so that everyone gets to communication and on the same page. So it's been good for us.
Morning, Daronte. I think one of the things you emphasized during OTAs and minicamp was your communication skills, teaching, and the learning process for the players. Now that we've shifted into pads and actual practices and stuff like that, how have you seen that kind of play out as far as them picking up what you're teaching them in the film room?
Yeah, as a coach, you just want to look at the progress, and see are we ascending in the right way when it comes to that. And again, it's not perfect by a long shot, but it's much better than where we were. So that means there's progress in that way. And so from a coach perspective, that's one of our evaluations in terms of, where were we in the spring compared to first week of training camp to now. And from coaches, we want to see that ascending course, so to speak. And as long as we're not going backwards and we continue to move forward, then we're on the right path to getting to what we want eventually.
On those days where you maybe do go backwards, how do you kind of rectify that situation for the next day?
Oh, that's easy. You correct it. You make those corrections. You help the players understand why, right? A lot of what the teaching that you're referring to is those guys understanding why. Why am I making this call? Why is coach making this call? What do we want to get done? What are we trying to take away? And that helps us in the long run.
Okay, so as you may remember, Dan Quinn, during his press conference on May 8th at 2026 Washington Commanders rookie minicamp, raved about Daronte Jones. Quinn said that Jones is, quote, impeccably organized, end quote. Quinn said that Jones has, quote, a very detailed, thorough approach, end quote. Quote, he's thorough. He goes through all the steps. It's not gray. There's a lot of clarity, end quote. Dan Quinn was so effusive in his praise of Daronte Jones in terms of his organization and attention to detail and thoroughness that you had to wonder, I know that I wondered, was the team's defensive coordinator for the previous 2 seasons, Joe Witt Jr., not this way? Like Daronte Jones coming off in this manner to Dan Quinn, is that especially the case because it stands out in such contrast to Joe Witt, or was Witt all of these things, and he was just done wrong by bad personnel? Whatever the case, maybe, hopefully, bad communication for Washington on defense is a thing of the past via Daronte Jones being very good at teaching his defense. So we on Tuesday morning had this back and forth between Commanders insider Nikki Javala of The Athletic and Jones.
Going back to what Martenzie was asking about your teaching, and a number of players have said you made it easy to learn, easy to digest. What is sort of your approach as you're kind of explaining the new system and really anything else throughout camp?
Yeah, that actually goes back, I would attribute that to my teaching in the Louisiana high school system. And so in doing that and doing a lesson plan, when you create a lesson plan, you have to pretty much hit on everyone's learning style because everyone learns differently. And so whether I'm an audio learner or a visual learner, or I'm a read and write learner or a kinesthetic learner, you got to be able to tap onto each person's learning style within that lesson plan so that everyone feels connected. And so we try to do that as coaches so that you're hitting on every player in that room, and then you get out and you walk through, and that's our process.
Is that difficult with like 40 to 50 guys at this point in the season?
Yeah, of course it is.
Really interesting to hear Daronte Jones talk about his teaching background. Keep in mind that his education involves him having been educated in Prince George's County, Maryland. Daronte Jones, a product of PG County. Jones is from Capitol Heights, Maryland, went to Bishop McNamara High School in Forestville, Maryland, and then went to Morgan State University in Baltimore. Something else to consider is this. Is Washington's new offense helping Washington's new defense? Hopefully. We on Tuesday morning had this exchange with Daronte Jones.
A lot of guys on defense have commented on eye candy, like the offense you're practicing against has a lot of eye candy, a lot of movement, things like that. Do you agree with that? And then is there a benefit to practicing against a team like that as you're preparing to play somebody else?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our offense is doing a great job giving us a lot of shifts in motion, and we try to stress to our players just defensively, football 101, motion causes emotion. And so all that is trying to get the defense to kind of get rattled, get nervous. But if we just understand that motion causes emotion and our ability is to stay ahead of a call, that allows us to calm things down and be slower in our processing.
I like that from Daronte Jones. Quote, motion causes emotion, end quote. Don't get so emotional when you see motion. Hey, especially now with all of the recent Washington Commanders news, if you're a fan of the team and are on Instagram, make sure that you are following WSH on the daily. The handle is at WSH on the daily. The content is outstanding. Daily coverage of the Washington Commanders, news analysis, opinions, great photos and videos all about the team. WSH on the daily started in 2021 and has more than 47,000 followers. Don't get left behind. Follow WSH on the daily on Instagram. The handle is at WSH on the daily. And check out WSH on the daily's online shop, WSHonthedaily.com. Some terrific gear, t-shirts, sweatshirts, hoodies, hats, excellent materials, modern looks. So for smart, informative, fun, and engaging Washington Commanders content, check out WSH on the daily on Instagram. And for great merch, visit WSHonthedaily.com. The top two teams in MLB's 2026 regular season in runs scored as of games through Monday were the Washington Nationals and Chicago Cubs. The Nats were number one at 643. The Cubs were number two at 614. And on Tuesday evening in game one of a three-game series for the Nats against the Cubs at Nationals Park, saw these offenses go to work. Now, the Nats did lose an 8-6 loss, ending the Nats' three-game winning streak. This was a game in which each team hit 3 home runs. This was a game in which at least one run was scored in 10 of 18 half innings, and this was a game in which Nats pitchers combined for a jaw-dropping 187 pitches. The Cubs made Nats pitchers work on Tuesday evening. The Nats in this regular season now are 59-62 with a run differential of plus 22 and are 5 games behind the Philadelphia Phillies for the National League's 3rd-3 wild card spots. The Cubs in this regular season now are 70-50 with a run differential of plus 109. The Cubs lead the National League wild card standings. The Nats starting pitcher for this 8-6 loss to the Cubs at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening was Jake Irvin. He lasted for just 3 1/3 innings. He officially allowed 5 runs in 3 1/3 innings, during which he threw a staggering 88 pitches. Now, he threw a lot of strikes in throwing 56 strikes versus 32 balls, but a big part of that was the Cubs fouling off 25 of Irvin's pitches. So Irvin in the top of the third allowed a run as he gave up a leadoff full count home run by Pete Crow Armstrong off the facade of the third deck in right field to cut the Nats lead to 3-2 despite having had Crow Armstrong down in the count at 1.02. The homer went a projected 437 feet per Statcast. Jake Irvin now at the major league level in this regular season, 14 games all starts, ERA of 5.79, whip of 1.32, pitches per inning of 18.08. Way too many pitches per inning. He was out for more than 2 months due to a right shoulder strain, but he is not having a good season. What is his age 29 season? He's under team control through the 2029 season. I do wonder if he this coming off season will get non-tendered. It's just not happening with Jake Irvin. The Nats relief pitching in this 8-6 loss to the Cubs at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening was not good. 4 Nats relievers officially combined to allow 3 runs in 5 2/3 innings. Tom Cosgrove officially tossed 2/3 of a scoreless inning. He and the Cubs' 3-run fourth faced 3 batters and got 2 outs, but he to the second batter he faced gave up a 2-out RBI double by Seiya Suzuki to left field for a 5-3 Cubs lead. Max Kranick allowed 1 run in 1 inning. He and a 35 pitch, top of the fifth, allowed a run on 2 singles and 2 walks. He threw just 19 strikes versus 16 balls. Orlando Revolta allowed 1 run in 1 inning. Revolta in the top of the 6th allowed a run as he gave up a 2-out solo homer by Alex Bregman to left field for a 7-4 Cubs lead. And then we had Miles Mikolas make his first true relief appearance in this regular season in what may have been his final appearance for the Nats. Now, he did well. He allowed 1 run in 3 innings. He in the top of the 8th allowed a run as he gave up a 1-out opposite field solo homer by Seiya Suzuki to right center field for an 8-4 Cubs lead. The homer went a projected 409 feet per Statcast. But Miles Mikolas, off having struggled big time as a member of the Nats starting pitching rotation, being used in a true relief role. And I say true relief role because in this regular season, technically speaking, has pitched in relief a bunch via the Nats using the opener strategy so often. But Miles Mikolas' stats, 25 games, including 11 starts, ERA of 5.82, whip of 1.38, 27 home runs allowed, 4th most in MLB. And he, after the game, was seen saying goodbye to teammates. So he apparently has been told that he's being cut. Miles Mikolas, very likable guy, but he is in his age 37 season and on a 1-year contract, and given the season that he's having, cutting him does make total sense. Now, during Nats manager Blake Butera's postgame press conference on Tuesday night, had these exchanges.
What went into the decision to pitch Miles out of the bullpen tonight?
I think when your starter has to come out that early, we need somebody to pick up some bulk innings, especially when we need the bullpen to be ready to go the next couple of days, hopefully with a lead.
Do you think that's going to be Miles' role moving forward?
We'll still talk through that. Not sure yet.
But it's at least a possibility.
Okay, so some rather cryptic answers from Blake Butera, but we do seem to know why. The Nats offense in this 8-6 loss to the Cubs at Nationals Park on Tuesday evening was good. 6 runs, 11 hits, which were 3 home runs, 2 doubles, and 6 singles, 2 for 7 with runners in scoring position. The Nats did draw just 1 walk and did strike out 10 times, but the Nats got to Cubs starting pitcher Shota Imanaga, who allowed 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings, although he did have 5 strikeouts versus no walks, but the Nats hit 3 homers off Imanaga. He came into the game with an ERA of 3.60 over 23 games, all starts in this regular season. So yet another instance of the Nats doing well against a good starting pitcher. The Nats in this season number 1 of being all in on analytics are so well prepared for opposing starting pitchers. More proof of this with what we saw on Tuesday evening. C.J. Abrams, he is the Nats starting shortstop and number 4 batter, went 1 for 5 with a 2-run homer. Abrams in the Nats 2-run first had a 2-out 2-run homer to right field for a 2-0 Nats lead. C.J. Abrams in this regular season now has 29 home runs and an OPS of 905. Dylan Cruz, he is the Nats starting right fielder and number 1 batter, went 1 for 5 with a solo homer. Cruz in the Nats 1-run 5th had a 2-out solo homer to left center field to cut the Nats deficit to 6-4. The homer went a projected 414 feet per Statcast. Dylan Cruz at the major league level in this regular season now has 10 home runs and an OPS of 666. The Devils' OPS, a 666 for the Devil, Dylan Cruz. Jacob Young, he is the Nats starting center fielder and number 6 batter, went 2 for 3 with a solo homer and a double. Young in the Nats 1-run second had a leadoff homer to left center field for a 3-1 Nats lead. That homer went a projected 427 feet per Statcast. Balls were flying out of Nationals Park on Tuesday evening. Jacob Young in this regular season now has 10 home runs and an OPS of 719. He came into this regular season with 5 home runs over 1,006 career MLB regular season plate appearances. Young in this regular season now has 10 home runs over 359 MLB plate appearances. His rate of hitting homers has slowed down, but still 10 home runs for Jacob Young. Also, Brady House got on base 4 times. He is an Nats starting third baseman and number 3 batter, went 3 for 4 with 3 singles and a walk. Brady House at the major league level in this regular season now has an OPS of 691. And Jorbit Bibas, he in the Nats 2-run 8th had a pinch 1-out first pitch opposite field RBI single to left field to cut the Nats deficit to 8-5. The play initially was ruled a catch by left fielder Ian Happ, but Blake Butera successfully challenged the play. But a big big hit for Jorbeat Bibas, who has been quite bad as a pinch hitter for the Nats. He in this regular season now has a pinch hitting OPS of just .449. Game 2 for the Nats against the Cubs at Nationals Park Wednesday evening at 6:45, and the Nats are going with Jackson Kent as their probable starting pitcher for the game. He'll be making his MLB regular season debut. The Nats took Jackson Kent in the 4th round of the 2024 MLB first-year player draft out of the University of Arizona. He this season has pitched for AA Harrisburg, AAA Rochester, and as of Wednesday evening, the Nats at the Major League level. Well, a win for the Baltimore Orioles, just their second win in 6 games, a 5-2 win at the Minnesota Twins on Tuesday night in Game 2 of a 3-game series. The O's in MLB's 2026 regular season now are 58-62 with a run differential of -34 and now are 2 games behind the Texas Rangers for the American League's third of 3 wild card spots. The Twins in this regular season now are 59-62 with a run differential of -34 and are 1.5 games behind the Rangers for the American League's third of 3 wild card spots. Very good offense for the O's on Tuesday night. 5 runs, 11 hits, which were 3 home runs, a double, and 7 singles, 3 walks. So the O's did go just 1 for 5 with runners in scoring position, but 3 Orioles players each had 3 hits. Pete Alonso, Gunnar Henderson, and Christian Encarnacion Strand. Pete Alonso got on base 4 times. He is the Orioles starting first baseman and number 2 batter, went 3 for 4 with a 2-run homer, 2 singles, and a walk. Alonso in the Orioles' 2-run first had a 2-run homer to left center field for a 2-0 Orioles lead. The homer went a projected 418 feet per Statcast. Let us take a moment to appreciate the season that Pete Alonso is having. The O's this past December 11th announced having agreed with Alonso as a free agent on a 5-year contract. The deal reportedly worth $155 million. So it works out to an average annual value and AAV of $31 million, highest AAV for a first baseman in MLB history. Also, the contract marked the second richest contract in Orioles franchise history, trailing only the reported 7-year, $161 million contract to which the O's re-signed first baseman Chris Davis in January 2016. And Alonso, in his first season with the O's, is living up to the contract. He in this regular season now has 26 home runs and an OPS of .829. We on Tuesday's show, episode 1385, talked about the struggles of Gunnar Henderson. Well, he on Tuesday night as the Orioles starting shortstop and number 1 batter went 3 for 5 with a 2-run homer, a double, and a single. Henderson in the Orioles' 2-run second had a 1-out full count 2-run homer to right field for a 4-0 Orioles lead. The homer went a projected 409 feet per Statcast. Henderson in this regular season now has 19 home runs, 20 doubles, and an OPS of .688. The Gunnar Henderson, who we saw on Tuesday night, that is exactly who we are begging to see. During O's manager Craig Albernaz's post-game session with reporters late night on Tuesday night, had this exchange.
Basically said the other day, willing to live and die by Gunnar Henderson. Is a performance like this just a reminder of what he can do when he's right?
Yeah, 100%. We've all seen it from Gunnar, and it's in there, and the results have been unforgiving, but with Gunnar, he works. He's such a great worker, and he cares, and he's been putting a lot of work in behind the scenes, and it was good to see him he hit the ball hard. He has been hitting the ball hard, but to actually get some results, it was really good to see, and offense needed it too.
Yes, it did. And Christian Encarnacion Strand, the man known as CES, he is the Orioles starting third baseman and number 5 batter, went 3 for 4 with a solo homer, 2 singles, and a stolen base. And how about the homer? Encarnacion Strand in the Orioles' 1-run third had a 1-out solo homer to left center field for a 5-1 Orioles lead. The homer went a projected 460 feet per Statcast, longest distance for an Orioles home run in this regular season. The O's this past April 13th acquired Christian Encarnacion Strand via trade with the Cincinnati Reds for cash considerations and optioned him to AAA Norfolk. The O's on July 16th announced having recalled Encarnacion Strand from AAA Norfolk. He since then has these stats for the O's at the major league level: 65 plate appearances, OPS of .8 53. The Orioles starting pitcher in this 5-2 win at the Twins on Tuesday night was Brandon Young. He rebounded from back-to-back bad outings with a strong outing. He allowed 2 runs, 1 earned in 6 innings. He gave up 6 hits, which were a double and 5 singles. Issued 3 walks and a hit by pitch. Put some guys on base, but he recorded 4 strikeouts, threw a lot of strikes, 104 pitches, 69 strikes, 35 balls. Brandon Young now at the major league level in this regular season, 20 games, all starts, ERA of 3.33, whip of 1.32. And consider this, the O's now are 16-4 over these 20 Brandon Young starts. We, during Craig Albernaz's post-game session with reporters late night on Tuesday night, had these exchanges.
You guys have won 16 of 20 games with Brandon Young on the mound. Is that pretty unbelievable to imagine how much that guy's meant for this team this year?
Yeah, it's been awesome. It's been fun to watch his growth in front of our eyes and see him in spring training and see where he's at now. And, obviously we had some tough injuries on the pitching side. And like we talked about, when injuries happen, it hurts for the person that got hurt, but also it's an opportunity for someone to step up. And B.Y. did that. He stepped up big for us, and we've needed it. So it's been awesome to see what B.Y. can do.
Sorry. No, a lot of traffic on the base paths. Kind of a gutsy outing for him, you think?
Really gutsy. Yeah, really gutsy. It was, we had 3 walks, I believe. And, talk about pitch efficiency and being efficient, that's when he's at his best. But he did a great job of grinding through it. I mean, in the dugout was a little uncomfortable because of it was like 80 pitches through 4, but he did a great job of being efficient the next 2 innings and really pounding the strike zone and getting quick outs, and double play balls helped too. So it was great to get him through 6.
Yes, it was, and very nice relief pitching for the O's in this 5-2 win at the Twins on Tuesday night. 3 Orioles relievers combined for 3 scoreless innings. Josh Walker tossed a perfect bottom of the 7th. Yanier Cano tossed a scoreless bottom of the 8th, despite giving up a leadoff single and despite issuing a one-out walk. And Andrew Kittredge tossed a perfect bottom of the 9th for the save. Game 3 for the O's at the Twins, Wednesday afternoon at 1:40. The O's have listed Shane Baz as their probable starting pitcher for the game. And that'll do it for you and me for now, but there's more to come. Thursday's show, episode 1387, will include a lot for you on the Washington Commanders, as they on Wednesday morning at 10:30 are hosting the Miami Dolphins for a joint practice. Also on Thursday's show, I'll talk Washington Nationals and Baltimore Orioles. The Nats are home to the Chicago Cubs Wednesday evening at 6:45 for Game 2 of a 3-game series. The O's are at the Minnesota Twins Wednesday afternoon at 1:40 for Game 3 of a 3-game series. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and I'll talk to you on Thursday.
For the fans.